So now's our time for meditation. So I invite you to get comfortable in your chair and get things out of your lap and just allow your body to be held up by the chair and supported so that you can just sit perhaps with your hands in your lap, with your hands facing upward to receive. As we begin taking some deep breaths, breathing in and out together. And just allowing the body to relax. Let go of anything that's been going on this morning. Feel those shoulders dropping off of the earlobes. As we let that breath of God breathe us into this quiet time. This time where we get to be still and know the truth. And now I invite you to picture in your mind that person, that father figure, your dad, your grandpa, your uncle, whoever it was that lent that fatherly advice to you in your formative years. And now we're going to take this opportunity to using the power of our imagination. We're going to have a little conversation. I would like for you to think of something that you wished you had said to your dad or hope that you will get to say to your dad at some time in the future. We know that even if this person is no longer in the physical, we are connected by the love that we are. And so I invite you to take this opportunity to say in your heart what it is that you wished you could have shared in just a brief moment of silence. And now I invite you to ask your dad what he would like to say to you. Something that he wishes he had said to you that you need to hear in a moment of silence. You know, forgiveness is a wonderful thing. And being a father, being a parent is not an easy job, but it is one of the most rewarding opportunities we have to grow in our life. The love that we share, the light that we are, blesses those in our lives. And so from this place of hearing these words and being able to express, we feel that love that is never ending, that is always present, that love that connects us, whether that person is in the physical or not. That love never dies. That love stays with us, and we carry it with us lifetime after lifetime. Those beautiful connections. And so we say, thank you, indwelling Spirit, for this sweet opportunity that we have this day to remember that connection, to remember the importance of loving no matter what, the importance of forgiveness in all of our relationships. Because it is the love that we came here to be, that sustains us, that grows our faith. We are so grateful for all of these magnificent relationships and peoples in our lives who are our teachers, our guides, our helpers. And so we say thank you that this is so. And now we begin to bring our focus back into the room. And whenever you're ready, just open your beautiful eyes. Such a wonderful healing opportunity, you know, to go into meditation and say things that we wished we'd heard, right? Just reframe some of those things in our life that we wish had been a little bit different. So today, because this whole month we're talking about faith, we're talking about realizing faith in the midst of uncertain times. And so this week in the book club, I was telling a story. We were actually talking about why is it, do you remember that? Why is it that we have to walk through uncertainty? Why do we have to be challenged? Why do we have to have pain and suffering in order to learn the lessons that we came here to learn? Why can't we just kind of skip that part and go to the growth, the spiritual growth part of it, right? Why do we have to go through that? And then I was reminding them of one of my favorite movies from the 1980s. Do any of you remember, I think it was like 1984, Jeff Bridges did that movie called Starman? Yeah, oh my God, it's so funny. He comes to Earth as an alien, right? Kind of by accident, you know, he's kind of like thrown here. And one of the things that he says to the people there is, he says, you humans are at your very best when things are at their very worst. And so there's something about challenge and that opportunity to grow spiritually when we don't necessarily like what's going on, but it's an opportunity. We know every single thing that happens is an opportunity for us to grow spiritually. So I know many of you, especially, you know, during the time of the hurricane, you witnessed lots of heroes and lots of people going above and beyond the call of duty during the hurricane, helping neighbors, helping friends, helping family, housing people, moving things, you know, cutting down trees. There were so many things, but I also witnessed that growth in my family, in my little family, especially in my son, Matt. What I witnessed was him basically becoming his dad, because it was the first hurricane that we'd been through since my husband wasn't here. I mean, that was really, really scary. And there was so much, you know, that went on during that. But what I witnessed was he became this protector, this One just like my Ray used to always be, always taking such good care of us, making sure that his girls were fine, pitching in, doing things. I mean, every single morning, even though like we had no electricity for 10 days, he was stoking that fire and getting that barbecue pit hot so Mom could have her tea water in the morning. I mean, you know, just above and beyond the call of duty always. And so I know how proud Ray was to see his son spring into action and do everything that he would have done, all the cooking that he did for those 10 days that we didn't have electricity. I mean, it was amazing the things that you can do. And it was like he was in his element. It was amazing to witness. He stepped up, and I know Ray was so proud of him. So this month, we have an affirmation. Let's say it together. I stand firm in my faith, happy and thankful. So I have a tendency to believe that these character building experiences are here because that's when we express the most of our faith. That's when we have to dig down deep and learn these lessons. Uncertainty is when we realize that we have a lot more faith than we ever thought that we could have. We rise to the occasion when these things come up. And in this country, we can hardly imagine the amount of faith that was necessary during the times when the slaves were waiting to be freed. This weekend, we also celebrate Juneteenth. Emancipation in Florida was finally proclaimed in Tallahassee, Florida, on May the 20th, 1865, 11 days after the end of the Civil War, and 2 years after Abraham Lincoln had made the proclamation. 2 years it took. For this reason, Emancipation Day is celebrated on May the 20th, which was just celebrated recently. But nationally, it's celebrated as Juneteenth, National Independence Day. So many leaders and so many heroes came out of that time. And this week I found an article by Daniel Dowling, and I really liked what he said. He said the strongest, most inspiring people in history are the ones who chose to love regardless of circumstances. And that always makes me think about Nelson Mandela. And it makes me think about Martin Luther King, how frustrated he must have been, and yet he chose to be that love in action. Faith is the decision to love no matter what the circumstances are that are surrounding us. And the more you choose love, the greater your faith will grow, he says. And on August the 13th, Martha Beretta and her friend Maureen are going to share with us that inspiring story of how things can work well when we choose to love and expect and respect each other and build a community of a beloved means. How Punta Gorda grew and how people work together. So we're going to have a Blanchard House Museum fundraiser on August the 13th. In this wonderful book that Gay Hendricks wrote called Conscious Living, Finding Joy in the Real World, he says to make the most of our gift of life, we must answer two great questions in our short time on earth. Are you ready? Number one, how do I live at peace with myself? And number two, how do I live in harmony with the people around me? In order to answer these questions, you see, we must find out who we really are at our core. What is it that we believe? Because in the midst of uncertain circumstances, when we feel like we're standing on shaky ground, we cannot help but feel shaken by anxiety and fear and stress over current events that we're witnessing in our country, where it feels like maybe our prayers aren't being answered. However, it takes a conviction of faith to see through all of that, to see on the other side of it. To maintain hope and faith means knowing in the core of our being that every single thing that unfolds is for our greater good. Is because there's something that we are learning in that situation. We are growing whether we like it or not. We're growing through it, and we're growing our faith. And when we know that every situation in life has meaning, then we can look for the gifts and the miracles that are unfolding. Because you see, faith provides the power to shift possibilities into realities. That's what we must know at our very core, that we can change our perceptions. I love Robert Brumett. He's one of my favorite Unity authors, and he wrote a book, The Quest for Wholeness. And in that book, he says, faith is fear turned inside out. He says, despite feeling fearful or doubtful at times, we can always find faith operating in the back of our consciousness. Because you see, most suffering is caused by our resistance to the process rather than the process itself. I have a very personal story about that. I want to share with you because today is Father's Day. I wanted to share with you the last few days that I had with my pop. Because he was an amazing guy, and he was 88, very healthy and strong, and taking care of my mom, who had beginning stages of dementia. He was driving and taking care of the house and doing everything in the family, taking such good care of her. We had no idea how really ill that she was. But he developed this mass in his abdomen, and he needed surgery, so they put him in the hospital in Seguin, Texas, and my brother and I, we all gathered there, and they were going to run some tests on him, and all of a sudden, he had a massive heart attack. Now, my dad, who was in World War II, he said, when he got out of the war, he said, I will never, ever fly in a plane or ride in a boat. He was like, never, ever, ever. So I took a picture of the helicopter, this bright yellow helicopter that landed in that little town, loaded him in there, and carried him to a town about 15 minutes away. They sent a helicopter for my pop. And so my mom, who didn't understand what was going on, I put her in the car, and we went over to the hospital where they had taken him to. And the doctors came out after a bit, and they said, you know what? His heart is in such bad shape, we can't operate on his heart. And he can't have the surgery on his abdomen. We can't take the mass because he can't handle the surgery. We can't put him under anesthesia. And so I thought to myself, oh my God. So now we're all, at the ICU, and I went in. My brother had gone to take care of some things, and I went in and I told him, I said, Daddy, they can't do anything. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, they can't operate on the mass, and they can't do the heart surgery either. And he said, well, so what's going to happen? And I said, well, they're going to dismiss you into the hospice program, and we're just going to wait. And he just looked at me like, really? This is it? And I was like, it is. It really is. It was the worst time. And so anyway, my sweet dad let all the family gather around him. Everybody came. We stood around his bed. We told stories, and we shared the love that we had, and it was wonderful. It was just wonderful. And then he just went to sleep. He just let go. He didn't fight it. He just let go. There wasn't anything more to be done, and so he didn't want to spend a lot of time in a hospice program somewhere. So he just let go. And I want you to know that his release in that particular way began an entire chain of events that was necessary for me to say yes to this position in this church. His letting go meant my mom went to the nursing home. My brother took care of her. This other lady that I was responsible for went to the nursing home. I didn't have to take care of her anymore. I mean, every single thing started to free me up. It was the beginning of a chain of events. And the best thing was that he had said he didn't think he'd stay long enough to be able to see me be ordained, but he did. He left like 4 months later after I got ordained. So we never know why things unfold the way they do, but they always unfold, you see, for the highest and best, always, of everybody concerned. He was tired of being a caregiver. He never told us how much work he was doing. And so he was ready. And this was the way that he was able to be released. It was perfect. Sad, but perfect. So today we're in the scriptures. And I want you to hear this because I'm going to read 3 verses. I'm reading from Romans 8. This is chapter 15 through 18. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received a spirit of adoption. When we cry, Abba, Father, it is that very spirit bearing witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with the Christ. If in fact we suffer with him so that we may also be glorified with him, I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is about to be revealed to us. Do you hear the faith in that? Do you hear the assurance? I find that to be very reassuring. Because to me, this scripture says, any pain that you've been feeling, anything that you have been walking through, any experience cannot even begin to compare to the joy that is coming. To the joy that is coming. When we become conscious of our oneness with God, we are in the spiritual body and we are being led by Spirit, and therefore we are sons and daughters of God. We are God beings. Claim it. It is while we are in this consciousness and identity with the Christ within us, that's when the healing takes place. Not only in us, but in all people around us. It takes place. And that inspiration is born during that time when we recognize who we are. It's born, and that illumination enlightens us. But it all comes back to knowing at our core who we are and claiming that divinity and realizing how precious and special we are. Elizabeth Sand Turner, one of my favorite beloved Unity authors, says, faith is the inner assurance that what we desire already exists in the invisible realm of spirit and can, by the exercise of our faith, be brought into being. You see, that's how powerful we are when we get alignment with what it is that our heart desires. So our job is to focus on that and to know that we're capable of manifesting those desires of our heart. Remembering that we are children of God and praying as Jesus instructed us to pray, believing that it's already ours, claiming it, thanking God in advance, knowing that it's coming. We pray believing, don't we? We have so many examples of answered prayer and healing in this congregation. And I know it's not just here, it's in your families, it's all over the place. It's in your friends, it's in your neighbors. You have witnessed it, you have experienced it. You know the healing power of prayer. So Charles Fillmore says in Dynamics for Living, our co-founder, faith is more than mere belief. It is the very substance of that which is believed. Faith working in spiritual substance accomplishes all things. This is the faith that cooperates with creative law. We are creative beings, and we're creating every minute of every day. Whether we're conscious and aware of it or not, we are creating. And this is the faith that brings us this seemingly miraculous results. We know these teachings work. And so there are 5 ways that we can keep our faith even when we think things look impossible. The first and foremost always is that we have to pray. We have to pray believing. We ask for guidance. We ask to have an open heart. We ask to believe that what we want is already ours. The second one is we're generous with others, because when we're doing for others, we're not so self-centered, right? And when we're doing for others, then we don't really think about the situations that are going on around us. So when we help others in need, that love expressing through us draws us into a stronger faith. You share your gifts or talents or tithes or treasures or whatever it is with other people. The third one is to be inspired. Let inspiration help you stay connected through your faith. When I'm feeling hopeless or sad, I read about people whose lives inspire me, or I watch my favorite uplifting movies to get yourself out of the funk. The fourth one is to surround yourself with people you admire. Choose friends who refuse to settle in their lives, who refuse to settle in their relationships, in their jobs. Choose those people who will be honest with you and will hold the truth with you, who challenge you to love like you're living your last day on earth. Those are the kind of friends you want to spend your time with. And the fifth one is set your intention early in the day, first thing in the morning. Set aside at least 10 minutes to meditate. Say your prayers. Set your intention around, use me, God, for the highest and best of all concern. Just know that you can be of service every single day. And if you practice these things, and then you do as Eric Butterworth says, he says, if you're faced with a challenge, refuse to be panic-stricken in your life. Life has not ended for you. Life flows on. So declare for yourself, I accept the reality of this situation, but not its permanence. Because everything is flowing in and through us for a reason. So open your mind, he says, to the flow of wisdom, love, and good judgment by which you will deal masterfully with whatever situation comes your way. Okay, enough preaching. Time for a joke. So I found this whole section on travel agents and the funny things that travel agents hear when people call and try to make reservations. So the phone rings, the travel agent picks up the phone, and the lady says, I want to make reservations. I want to go from Chicago to Hippopotamus. And the agent was sort of at a loss for words, and finally she said, are you sure that's the name of the town? Yeah, she said, what flights do you have? And after searching around, she said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but I've looked at every airport code in the book, and I can't find anything. She said, well, that's silly. Just get out a map and look for it. It's in New York. And so the agent goes away, and she gets a map of New York, and she's looking, and finally she comes back, and she says, are you talking about buffalo? That's it, she said. I knew it was a big animal. Hippopotamus, New York. Okay. Buffalo. So I'm going to close today with a poem by Rumi. So just listen to these words. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Happy Father's Day, everybody. Namaste. Thank you. This is a time in our service when we get to share from our good into this community. So whether you're watching online or you've given automatically, or you use the Breeze website or PayPal, whatever it is, we are so grateful for your sharing of your good with us. So let's bless them together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so.